The Federal Reserve raised interest rates on Wednesday. The Fed said it based its decision on continued U.S. economic growth and strength in the job market. It also said it saw recent softening in inflation as transitory.
Well, I think it's good news in a lot of ways, because the Fed, in their statement, said that they expect the GDP of the United States to increase and unemployment to stay low, and inflation to stay low. So the commentary was pretty positive, and the Fed is raising rates for the right reason. I think the big risk down the line is what the economy is going to look like in 6 or 7 months if tax reform and other of Trump's economic packages, part of his package, isn't approved.
The Fed pushed rates to near zero in response to the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis. It started bringing them back up in December 2015 as part of a normalization of monetary policy. Wednesday's hike is its fourth since then. The central bank also announced it would begin cutting its holdings of bonds and other securities this year.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
If you're not a fan of bees, this next story, probably not for you.
Probably not. A swarm of bees invaded a woman's home in California. Take a look at this. Homeowner Noreen McLaughlin says she heard buzzing sounds on Wednesday. She first spotted a bee inside her family room, then dozens of others crawling on her sliding glass door.
Bees created quite a buzz in Lower Manhattan this afternoon. Hundreds of bees swarmed outside this building on Broad Street. Police had to actually block part of the street while beekeepers in protective gear tried to gather them all up.
In California, there have been more than 127 confirmed shark sightings in recent weeks.
Overdoses. They're now the #1 killer of people under the age of 50. More people die from that than from car crashes, HIV, or gun deaths.
They blame a new drug that is so powerful you can die just by touching it.
Over the past 2 years, fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that can be thousands of times stronger than heroin, has been flooding into places like here, Montgomery County, Ohio, where the overdose death rate has been skyrocketing. Through just May, overdose deaths in the county almost hit last year's total, and officials estimate this year's final number will double that. First opioid of abuse was prescription pain pills, including OxyContin. But in response to media attention, access to pills were restricted, and in their place came heroin from Mexico, cheaper and more powerful. And then a couple of years ago, traffickers began mixing fentanyl into the heroin. And fentanyl is by far the most fatal drug of abuse America has ever seen.
So you live around here? Mm-hmm. You said you have a nickname for this street.
Morgue Avenue.
Morgue Avenue.
It's not Morgan, honey, it's Morgue.
Which houses have people died in?
What houses have they not died in? Really?
Really?
Really. Look at all these places, man. I've lived here for about, 5 years? And the last 5 years, it's unreal. I mean, in 47 minutes, there was already 9 deaths.
In 47 minutes?
On the street.
People are dying from what?
Drugs.
It is having deadly results.
Now the opioid epidemic
seems to be getting worse now,
which has already ravaged parts of America,
acting like a serial killer,
has taken on a new, even more troubling dimension with a drug that's even more powerful than those of the past.
Now we're not playing with $5 chips, we're playing with $25 chips and $50 chips and $100 chips, and the stakes are higher.
Rob Valek of the University of Colorado Skaggs School of Pharmacy is referring to heroin mixed with carfentanil, a highly potent synthetic opioid that's used to sedate large animals like elephants.
The potency of it is so much stronger that people are dying even more frequently because small amounts of that that people aren't used to can kill them.
This drug combination is believed to have caused 60 overdoses across 2 U.S. states in one 48-hour period last year. It's been linked to hundreds of deaths. Valek says it's relatively cheap for drug suppliers to produce and offers users the lure of a stronger high.
The blistering heat wave in the Southwest could get even worse today. Record high temperatures were set yesterday in California, Nevada, and Arizona. Phoenix hit 118 degrees. Today, the temperature in Phoenix could reach 120.
This heat, when we talk about 120 degrees plus, is that life-threatening heat?
It's life-threatening heat for all populations, all ages.
The intense heat is contributing to wildfire conditions in Nevada, Utah, and Southern California, where a brush fire quickly grew to hundreds of acres Monday afternoon. Further north, it was so hot in West Sacramento, California, a major highway buckled, rising off the ground as much as 4 inches. And in Fresno, California, hundreds were forced to evacuate a fast-rising river fueled by rapidly melting snow.
We didn't know it was going to rise, but we didn't expect this at all.
Wildfires in Bryan Head, Utah have now spread across 1,000 acres, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate the small Utah ski town. Fires also continue to rage across other western states. In Southern California, firefighting planes attacked brush fires near Castaic Lake. An abandoned campfire sparked another fire in northern New Mexico, forcing hundreds from their homes.
We're helping with water, we're helping with housing, and just, animals and, whatever anybody needs. We're just trying to do whatever, towels, blankets, anything that's necessary.
Early Sunday, officials said they are finally getting that fire under control. The dangerous heat is expected to continue baking the southwest region throughout the week. As heat and fire plagued the west, wet storms pounded Missouri with lightning and heavy rains. Power outages mean families can't even get relief from the heat indoors.
Over 700 people have been evacuated from the area as the fire threatens buildings. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported. The fire has already destroyed one building and damaged another. Bryan Head is about 3 hours from the valley and is a popular destination for locals. Still not clear how the fire started.
Sizzling heat across the region could break records, and another cause for concern, air quality. Unhealthy to very unhealthy levels of heat-induced ozone pollution are expected in several inland communities. Excessive heat warnings extend to Nevada, parts of Utah, and in Arizona, where over a dozen wildfires are burning around the state. 6 firefighters had to be treated for heat-related illness while battling the Highline fire in Payson.
What's believed to be Portugal's deadliest wildfire continues to burn in that country. The flames have killed at least 61 people. Most of the victims got trapped in their cars. As the fire raged across central Portugal, authorities think a lightning strike sparked the wildfire.
Yo, this is history in the making, you know, people. We're about
turn red. River bleed red, dog. Mama tell you, first never seen in history. Red the river run. See that? Whole line. It bleed, dog, all the way up the stream. As far as you can see it. All the way downstream. It bleed red. History. History to blood fluid, dog. We don't know what go on to it. See that?
This is a massive fish kill on Stumpy Lake in Virginia Beach. This is a walkway here, spillway if you will. Over here, a lot more fish, thousands of fish, caused by a lack of oxygen in the water.
is a tornado. Wow. Looks like a snake with its tongue coming out.
So, what the hell is that? There's something behind the tree there. So what in the hell is that? I've never seen anything like it before.
The profits from investment and tourism flow directly to the military. The regime takes the money and owns the industry. The outcome of last administration's executive action has been only more repression and a move to crush the peaceful democratic movement. Therefore, effective immediately, I am canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba.
I don't think Trump is a skeptic. I think he is evil and a cynic. Even his aide said, oh no, he believes the climate's changing. That makes it all the worse. He is a sociopath, which means inflicting harm on others does not bother this man. That's the real problem. Trump and his cronies in the Congress are corrupt. They're basically reflecting the oil and gas lobby, not the will of the American people, and certainly not the interest of the American people.
Help her! Help her up there!
This is an unprecedented incident. In my 29 years of being a firefighter, I have never ever seen anything of this scale.
There were just people screaming from the windows, and you can see people that were flashing their lights and that. Yeah, and then people were, I think, waving pieces of clothes or something out the window, and then there was debris falling off the building, and then, like, as you got to the top, like, you could see children screaming at the top as well, and you can just hear screams of, like, help.
At least 6 people are dead and more than 50 others injured after a massive fire engulfed a high-rise apartment building in London. Dozens of emergency responders were dispatched to Grenfell Tower in West London early Wednesday to battle the deadly blaze and try to rescue residents still trapped inside. Officials say several hundred people were believed to be inside the 24-story building when the fire started. Witnesses told local media they saw people jumping from upper floors and still heard screams for help hours after the flames first broke out. As of Wednesday morning, it was still unclear exactly how many residents were able to escape the burning tower, but police say they expect the death toll to continue to rise over the next several days.
Police in London say 10 people were injured after an attacker drove a van onto a street near a mosque in North London. One man, who is already being given first aid at the scene before the vehicle was driven into pedestrians, has died, but police said it was not clear whether his death was directly linked.
No matter what the motivation for this attack proves to be, we are keeping an open mind. This is being treated as a terrorist attack, and the Counter-Terrorism Command is investigating.
A suspect is reported to have been identified after a deadly explosion outside a kindergarten in eastern China. At least 8 people died and 65 were injured in the blast in the city of Chuzhou. Authorities said the explosion was a criminal act. Witnesses described seeing adults and children lying on the ground after the blast.
Russia has sent out a warning to the US-led coalition in Syria that it will view all aircraft as targets after a Syrian fighter was downed. The coalition attacked the Su-22 after it launched a strike on US-backed rebels in Raqqa province. Moscow said that it would no longer cooperate with the US in order to prevent air accidents. The Russian Defense Ministry said any aircraft, including planes and drones belonging to the international coalition operating west of the Euphrates River, will be tracked by Russian anti-aircraft forces in the sky and on the ground and treated as targets.
The Pentagon has been very close-mouthed about this for some obvious reasons. They're trying to work it out with the Russians, and they don't want to reveal whether they are even able to work it out with the Russians. None of this very clear at the moment. What we know is, on a working level, Russian military, U.S. military, certainly privately still talking to each other. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs has actually indicated that. But whether this official channel of communication is open and whether it would even still work, given everything that's going on right now, remains an open question. 24 hours ago, the Russian Ministry of Defense said it would consider a shoot-down of any aircraft flying in the areas of western Syria that it feels it dominates. That puts U.S. aircraft, U.S. troops at risk.
Story in the Baltic Sea where a Russian fighter jet flew within 5 feet of a U.S. spy plane. How threatening of a move is this?
Well, 5 feet is close by anybody's estimation. And what happened here was the American plane, which is an RC-135, which is basically a version of a commercial aircraft that is used to scoop up all of the electronic transmissions that are going on in a particular area. It was 25 miles off the coast of a piece of Russian territory known as Kaliningrad. And the Russian jet, which was armed, came up on one of its wingtips within 5 feet. That's close. And then it went under the American plane and came up on the other wingtip. So that is considered to be unsafe by U.S. officials. Not the first time it's happened. Probably won't be the last. But when you're operating in that tight quarters, there's always the chance of a mistake.
Russia's meddling in the 2016 election may have been more pervasive than anyone knew. Bloomberg reported that Russian cyber operatives attacked voting systems in 39 states, according to people with knowledge of the investigation. Hackers reportedly accessed the software that poll workers used, but it appears they didn't actually do anything to mess with the final tally. Experts said the Russians may not have gained enough access to make a real difference, though they may have wanted information to alter or shake confidence in future elections. Vladimir Putin denied that Russia's government orchestrated any attacks, but said hackers with, quote, patriotic leanings may have interfered with the election on their own.
Призываем Соединенные Штаты и всех других, кто имеет свои силы или своих советников на земле, обеспечивать скоординированность в нашей работе. Зоны деэскалации являются одним из возможных вариантов совместного продвижения вперед. Приглашаем всех избегать односторонних действий, уважать, еще раз подчеркну, суверенитет Сирии и подключиться к нашей общей работе, которая согласована с правительством Сирийской Арабской Республики.
America's electrical power system could be under threat. The Washington Post claims Russian hackers have it in their sights. It says programmers allied to the Russian government have devised a piece of malware capable of causing massive power outages throughout America. In its article, the Washington Post cites a cybersecurity firm called Dragos. The same piece of malware is said to have been used in 2016 when a hacker attack shut down the electrical grid in Ukraine's capital, Kiev.
Indestroyer is a malicious tool used in the hands of a very dedicated and well-funded and persistent attacker. The malware is able to persist in the compromised network and directly interfere with critical working processes. The biggest problem, however, is that these industrial systems and the communication protocols that they're using, that Indestroyer is targeting, are used worldwide and have been developed decades ago without security in mind. Within the malware, they implemented functions which are able to directly communicate with switches and circuit breakers used in power grid substations. The relatively low impact of the recent blackout and the technical level, the sophistication of the suspected malware behind it, Indestroyer, is in great contrast. So the possible explanation for this, which is the opinion of many security researchers, is that this was a large-scale test. Whether or not that is true, the main takeaway from this should be that this is definitely a wake-up call for all those responsible for security of these critical infrastructure worldwide.
Tens of thousands of American service members in Asia face a growing threat from North Korea. Dictator Kim Jong-un has carried out nearly a dozen missile tests since the beginning of the year. About 28,000 American troops are stationed in South Korea.
President Moon is now promising dialogue with the North. That puts him at odds with President Trump, raising a lot of questions about what the two leaders can achieve at next week's White House summit.
The threat from North Korea is growing. Kim Jong-un is stepping up not only his technical capability, but also the pace. 10 missile tests just this year.
What good options are there?
It's called the land of lousy options.
John Delory is a professor at Yonsei University in Seoul and an expert in North Korean affairs.
Does North Korea have the capability to launch a nuclear weapon?
we have to assume they can launch a nuclear missile. Not an ICBM, but they can put a warhead on a missile and hit targets in South Korea and in the region.
Under threat, 28,000 troops in South Korea, more than 50,000 in Japan, and more than 6,000 in Guam.
Doesn't Kim Jong-un want to test an ICBM so he can send a message that he could strike the United States?
Yeah, stopping the ICBM is going to be really tough. Recently, there have been more signals, North Korean statements, we're going to do it soon. It does look like this is in the immediate playbook for what they want to do.